Somebody, Rich, give me a thumbs up. Can you see my screen?
Yep, got it.
Awesome. Got about 1 minute, everybody.
So is everybody else completely creeped up by Steve Holmes' little mannequin?
Yes, I did see that. But not if you know Steve.
Don't be picking on me now.
They've actually had an increase in club members this year, and I'm not sure that, you know, they're not including folks like are on the screen there. So. Okay, everybody, it's 4 o'clock. Let's get rolling. First things first, if you're new to this bridge, if you would please, you can see my name up there. It's Art McQueen, and you can see that I've got Flagler Beach right after it. That's my Rotary Club. If you don't have that, you can right-click right after your name, and it'll give you the opportunity to rename yourself and simply add your club name to that. If you're on an iPad, I understand it is a left click after the name, but I am not sure on that because I am not a Mac guy. So if you do that, that would be a great deal of help. Got some other folks on this bridge again. Some of you have been on here all day, some on this track all day. Those that have not, Rich Cooper, our DGN, is going to handle questions today. Got John Caulfield with us today. John is the Art Mini-Me for the upcoming year. I'm going to be the Global Grants Chair. My 3-year term as the District Foundation Chair is ending. Jeanette's my other mini-me. She'll be filling that role, and John will be filling, I'll take 1 year of being the Global Grants Chair, and John will be teaching me and shadowing me at the same time, and then he'll take over. And so he may have some input on this portion of our session as well. I can't see you all. Because I'm showing this and you can't see everybody else either. So please, if you have a question, put them in the chat box. You can send them either to Rich or to everybody. And Rich will interject them as they are appropriate to maybe where we're at in the slideshow. And so that we can move through this, and I can give you some information about what apparently is the scariest thing we do, which is global grants. These pictures on this opening slide are pictures from some of our current and immediately or just finished up projects. This one down here is actually the picture you see behind me in my my Zoom presentation. That's Sustainable Cambodia. That project has perhaps 20 districts and maybe 100 clubs partnering on it. It started here in 69-70, and we're doing a grant there again this year. Gainesville is the lead club on that. Richard Allen has been the originator and lead on that for many years. This project with the holes in the ground is the beginnings of a septic in Honduras. These trenches are both here and up here are trenches of villagers laying their own water pipe on a grant that the Rotary Club of Ormond Beach did down in Nicaragua. It's a water project, 4 villages. These are the kinds of things that are happening. These ranged everywhere from $30,000 to $670,000 in these projects. This is a different bucket of money from our district grant bucket. So when you heard me saying 65 and 75,000, just disregard those numbers for now. The amount available in the World Fund for our district grant use, for our DDF and district grant use, our global fund, is different. So if you've got a project, let's talk about it. So what grants fund? They do humanitarian projects, scholarships for graduate level studies, vocational training teams. So as you might imagine, humanitarian projects could be those water projects, could be a school project, things of that nature. That vocational training team maybe fits in perfectly for a project like a water project. where we would send down a water quality engineer perhaps to train the people that are local as to how to address the quality needs and check the quality of the water they're producing. That's just one very simple example. Scholarships for graduate level studies. The district has historically attempted to fund one scholar a year. We don't always get an application. Scholars are someone who has their bachelor's degree, has been working in the field for 3 or 4 years in one of the 6 areas of focus, preferably, and has come to us because a graduate degree would empower them to do more in that area of the world where they're trying to make a difference. Give you an example, we had one recently that he was a water engineer. He ended up going to Cambridge for his graduate level studies because he can do more water in third world countries. We had a young lady who teaches challenged kids in Africa, and she wanted to get a master's because she thought she could make a bigger impact on teaching kids that had some mental challenges in that part of Africa. So those are the kinds of things that we're looking for in these scholars. We're not looking for the kid that just got out of their undergrad and is trying to find a way to fund their master's. And we're hoping that they've shown by 3 or 4 years of study in the field that they have a heart for service and that they're going to pay it back. Doesn't mean they're going to spend the rest of their life in it, but much like AmeriCorps or Peace Corps type activities where we're looking for that short term, give us something back, make the world a better place, and we'll help you get smarter in order to do that. Global grant funding. So the minimum size of a global grant is $30,000. That's the smallest project it can do. The minimum amount of the World Fund is $15,000. So the World Fund won't even play in a grant unless there's $15,000. And that's the money that comes from the Rotary Foundation once we've put together funding to make up the difference in that $30,000 or greater project. So minimum of 15, maximum the World Fund will do is $400,000. Club and member contributions to a grant are matched 50 cents on the dollar. District contributions to a grant are matched dollar for dollar. So I'll just give you a for instance. You want to do a water project, it's $30,000, and you somehow miraculously convince the district to give you $15,000 of DDF. I'm saying miraculously because it's not going to happen. You need to participate in this, but you managed to convince the district to give you $15,000 in district designated funds. We're done, because now the World Fund's going to match that with $15,000. That's a $30,000 project. If, for instance, the club has $10,000, that's going to be matched 50 cents on the buck. So now we've got $15,000. We're only looking for $7,500 from the district to be matched $7,500, and now we're there again, right? And I'm not sure of my math, but I think we're there. Well, we're a little bit short because we got to get to $15,000 on that minimum of the World Fund. So we'd have to ask for a little bit more there. But that's how Rotary math works when it comes to global grants. A little bit of money can go a long way. So is the goal clearly described? What do you want to do? And is it clearly described? Is it sustainable? Global grants have to be sustainable. Does it align with one of the 6 areas of focus? Does it respond to a community need? Does it actively involve Rotarians and community members? And remember, there's a club on each side of this project. So does it involve Rotary members on both sides of that project? And are the community members engaged in this project? So if we're going to go do a water project in Nicaragua in a given village, do those community members want that water, number one? And number two, are they willing to be actively involved and get this done? You saw the picture of them digging ditches in order to lay pipe. That's active engagement. And you can trust me that they were all over that opportunity to dig ditches in order to get water. And does it meet eligibility requirements? So I had that community need. I had an asterisk next to it. The first step in any global grant is a community needs assessment. For years and years, Rotary went about the world telling people in their local communities that we knew what was best for them. That never works. We have toilets all over the world that are now flower pots, and I'm sorry I use that example often, but it's just a fact. They didn't want to use a toilet. They won't use a toilet. And we can't train them at this point in their social development to use a toilet. We went to in Guyana, we went to a village and dug a well. Thankfully, it was a test well because everybody in Guyana drinks from a very dirty black river. They do their laundry in it, their refuse rolls into it, their excrement rolls into it, and they drink from it. So as you might imagine, they have a lot of disease because of their water source. So we did a well, test well. They wouldn't drink it. The river water was sweet. The well water was not. So it's a good thing we didn't invest a lot of money, right? Next step, we took river water, put it in clear plastic jugs, put it on the tin roofs of their huts, bleached it with the sun. They wouldn't drink it. Next step, we put a bucket under the gutter and collected rainwater. That worked. So what was a very expensive project at the beginning ended up a district grant instead of a global grant because we funded like 400 of these 250-gallon tubs that sat underneath the gutter from their tin shack. And not all of them had gutter. We had to take care of that part too. But they were willing to drink rainwater and stop drinking river water. That's a community needs assessment. We established what would work and what they wanted before we put in something that they would not use, would cost us a fortune, and would do absolutely no good for them. Lots of ways to do this. Community meeting, asset inventory, surveys, interviews, focus groups, the same kind of thing you'd do in your own community, you would do in this foreign community. There's a couple of tools available. And yes, this will be available. I'm not sure how we're sharing all this stuff, Rich. Maybe you found out subsequently, but we're going to make all these presentations will be available. If recordings come out of this stuff, and I'm not sure that we're not going to max out our recording capacities, so we'll see. But if recordings are available, we'll also figure out a way to post those and share those. This 605 community assessment tool is available on Rotary.org. Download it. It's a 20-page document that walks you through the community needs assessment process. Pick the process that works best for the situation you've got in the community you're serving and execute that. It will be the biggest sticking point on you even creating a document. You can't create a doc on what you're going to do if you don't know what they need. I hope that makes sense. Rich, we got any questions?
You know, Art, there's just a lot of talk about whiskey and drinking and cocktail hour. I don't see any legitimate.
Well, I got to join them, Rich, if you'll excuse me, just to keep my voice going here. So I fully understand that. And I guess it's my voice that's driving them to drink. So
I'm surprised everybody waited till 4. I'm actually proud.
Okay, as I stated earlier, and John, is there anything you want to jump in on here while I'm blitzing through this stuff? Still muted. Bottom left-hand corner, there you go. Oh, bottom left-hand corner with your cursor, you'll see a little microphone with a red slash. Click it, it'll go away.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Thanks, Art. Again, great presentation, Art. And I think that the critical thing here is having the international partner, the international club that's as enthusiastic as your club is. And if you can get that, the rest falls in place. Without having that buy-in, it's going to be hard.
That's exactly right. And great segue, John. That's this slide. Every global grant has a host country partner, which, as you might imagine, is where the project's being executed, and an international partner, which might be your club. They've got to know each other. You have to have established a relationship. You can do a little research on them. You need to do some research on them. They're responsible for filing reports, as are you. If we don't get the reports, everything goes sideways. So they have to be all in the same way that you are, as John just stated. Your great idea might not be their great idea, okay? And that's what you've got to keep in mind. We've got all the best and brightest in each of our clubs, and each of us in our own special way feels that way about ourselves. They don't care, right? So especially when you're in a different country. And keep in mind also, you could have some language issues. So you've got to pay attention to where you're working and that someone in your club can speak the local language, because it doesn't mean that someone in their Rotary Club speaks English. More than one, because they have the same retention challenges that we do. So if somebody you've established a project with disappears, you better have someone else you can communicate with. Global grants rarely happen in the course of a few weeks. The One Water project, and Rich is a member of that Ormond Beach Club, that was over the course of over 3 years that those water projects were completed. And there's reporting that goes on throughout that process. There's hiccups. Everything was worked through. All 4 grants have been successfully closed, and $660,000 worth of project, water flowing to 4 villages. Awesome. So I'm going to try and visit the website and show you how simple this actually is. It's not that crazy. It's not that difficult, and you can't screw anything up. There's nothing you can do there that goofs anything up or makes a mistake for anybody else. So this is kind of the walkthrough on how to do it, but I'm going to actually do it. And I hope, anyway. Let me see if I can stop this share. We're going to open up a link here. Bear with me. Can you see my screen, the Rotary website?
Yes.
Right.
Okay, I am going to sign in. And sometimes I'm in here often enough that, and it signed me straight in without password and stuff because I'm in here so regular. If you only go in once a week, you're going to have to enter your login and your password. But you simply go into the Rotary Foundation or the Rotary website, hover over the Rotary Foundation, and you see these other links pop up. Go over to the Grant Center. Now, by the way, you see global grants right there. This is a learning center. Go here and do your research. But let's go to the Grant Center. And now, if I click My Grants, you'll see a ton of grants that are going on right now. But for the sake of this, we're going to do Apply for a Grant. Then it's really simple and it's just intuitive. So select a grant type. We're going to do a global grant. Let's begin. Name your project, and I mean, you might want to put a village name. You might want to put water project, et cetera, et cetera. Could be, but make it somewhat descriptive. You can see you've only got 100 characters. Humanitarian, vocational, or a scholarship. It could be any single one of those, or it could be a humanitarian with a vocational training team. So you might be clicking both of those. What you click here determines what you see in the rest of the steps. So if I just click humanitarian, which I'll do now for the sake of this, I'll get this. If I were to add vocational training team, it's going to ask for who the members are. It's going to ask you to upload their CVs, how they bring value to this team, all those types of questions. Then it's going to ask for contacts. It's going to give you drop downs. So we're going to be the international partner, and the club is the sponsor, and their district, every district in the world. You're going to click it. You're done. That part's done. Then it's going to give you the opportunity to switch and do the international club. The same thing. You're going to pick their district, and then it'll give you every club in their district. And then it'll give you every member in that club in order to create the committee members. And it's not going to let me create the committee members unless I actually fill that stuff out. But then you create the committee members, and you're going to want to put 3, 4, 5 people from your club into that committee. The same thing on their side. But as soon as you've selected their district, it will give you the club list. And then once you select their club, it will give you the names of the people in their club. So you've been having conversation. You know who's going to do this. That's how you populate that. Project overview is just that. You're going to populate project overview. Let me see if I can, I wonder if this will let me if I do this real quick. Oops, I'm not the host. And I'm a member of Flagler Beach, which, wow, isn't listed. I've been thrown out of Rotary again. So I'm going to make this a Flagler County Club. Now, as you can see, it gives me a listing of every member in their club. I select them to add them to this grant, okay? That becomes the committee. It's not going to let me do it because I don't know what other international or the host club is going to be, so, or what host district I'm going to use. But that's how you populate the committee members. Project overview, pretty simple. What's your goal? What are you going to do? Area of focus. All 6 areas of focus are going to pop up there. But if you heard me earlier in one of the previous sessions, be very careful here. The fact that you're doing a water project that's going to lead to greater child and maternal health, which will lead to greater literacy, don't check all 3 boxes. If you do, you have to report on all 3. Report on the strongest element or select the strongest element. You still put in the description that you're going to impact maternal and child health, but you don't have to report on it that way. Does that make sense to everybody? Measuring success. How will success be measured? So you're going to put in, we'll stick with the water project as an example. You're going to have done a community needs assessment, and you're going to have data that shows there's X number of cases of dysentery, for instance, or any other waterborne disease. So now you can actually, survey those villages on a interim basis, and you select the interim, could be monthly, could be bi-monthly, quarterly, and you track the cases of those disease. That's how you're going to measure success. You're going to have a goal on that success. You're going to be able to measure that success. Location and dates, obvious. Participants, you're going to outline what each of the clubs are going to be doing. The budget, this is pretty specific. If you're doing a water project and you've got pipe and you've got well cap and you've got a contractor doing this or that, you have got to list all that. You're probably going to upload a spreadsheet with all these line items on it that's going to line out each and every item. You're also going to have the opportunity when you do your MOU to outline who's going to keep the bank account on this project. That's important. If you want to have control of this in the MOU, you have to outline that you're going to keep the bank account. If you're going to leave the bank account in that foreign country, okay, but build some protections around that outline, okay? You're also going to be addressed, it'll ask you to address the exchange rate. So if you're working in France and you're doing this in francs, it's going to set an exchange rate for you. You can have a contingency in your budget. That contingency can speak to a number of things. A cost overrun, perhaps a variation in exchange rates, right? So you've got to take those things into consideration. Sustainability. How long is that water well and this system going to last, and why? If you put a 10-year lifespan on this or a 20-year lifespan on that, why? And how are you going to make that happen? It might be because you're going to train somebody to maintain that system, somebody to do the water quality on that system, et cetera, et cetera. All of those things go into that process. You don't come down here until you're a long way down the road. You don't do the review and lock and the authorizations. That's way, way down the road. I'm gonna bring a couple things up just to show you. I'm gonna go to my grants now. Any questions on this application?
Art, this is Rosemary. I did submit some questions in the chat section there.
Rich, what do you got?
Well,
Or Rosemary, go ahead and ask.
Yeah, please.
Oh, I've forgotten by now.
Well, no, there's one. Is this from you, Rosemary, about the Guatemala project? Your
Yeah.
partner club in Guatemala.
Right.
Okay, so please go ahead.
Well, my Guatemala partner club said that they're approaching the maximum number of clubs that they or projects that they can partner with. I think it's 10, but I'm not sure about that. And so they are proposing that I partner with another club, and they're going to introduce us.
Okay,
So is this, I guess for the purpose of going through this, we'll initially be partnering with the Nuevo Guatemala Club, although that may change.
now, so if you started a draft with that partner on there, yes, you can change that. That's number
Okay.
one. Number two, you just gave us some very good information. You've got 10 ongoing global grants with that club. I would ask them to provide you with the contacts for some of those projects. I want to know how they're doing on their end as a partner, okay? And then that other club, I mean, everything in Central America has lots of projects going on. So you can find out a great deal about these partner clubs from that information. And there's no secrets there. There shouldn't be any secrets there. And the other way is to go to myself or John or Jeanette, and we can put you in touch with the country coordinator for that region, and they can tell you what they're seeing in those projects. But that all leads to, it's up to you who you partner with, as long as you trust them and as long as you're sure they're going to come through. But yes, you can change it.
Okay.
Rosemary, you had another question on the limit on VTT funds.
Yes. If, let's say this project is around $70,000, which I think is what it is there a limit
Total
about the
value of
amount
the
of
project?
VTT money?
Total value of the project?
I think
70?
that's total, yes.
Okay, and then the question, I'm sorry?
How much of that, is there a limit on how much would be VTT?
No.
Let's say we wanted to bring somebody down, to teach water testing subsequent to the project. And
They
is
don't
there
all
a
have to go
limit
at the
of how
same
much
time.
of the project we can spend on VTT?
No, I mean, if it's justified, it's justified. There is no, they don't all have to go at the same time. Someone going pre-project, someone going mid-project, someone going post-project is acceptable. All of that can be done. You have to outline their purpose and whether they have value and bring value to that project.
Okay. And I think my final comment on there is the currency is really pretty volatile right now.
Welcome to the world we live in right now, right?
Yes. And so to put a precise exchange rate can be pretty risky.
Gotta have a starting point.
Okay.
Yep. You just put it into the contingency and put in there the history of that currency. That over the last 3 months, this currency has ranged from everywhere from 1.2 to the dollar to, and obviously in Central America, I'm way off on my numbers, but thinking in terms of British pound or something, 1.2 of the dollar to 1 to 1.5, that's a big swing. It's 50% swing. It needs to be in there as to why you're asking for that kind of a contingency.
Okay. Thank you.
We're good, Art. Thank you.
We're good?
Yes, sir.
So where Rosemary's at, I'll show you where Rosemary's at, actually. Are you in a panic now, Rosemary?
Probably.
So
You're
this is
pulling my
the view that I get as the foundation chair. This is all of these grants you see here are in
there
draft
you go.
format. They're being done by one of our clubs currently. Authorizations required. They don't stay in here very long. The district governor, the sitting district governor, and the district foundation chair get an email when a grant has been submitted for authorization. The foundation chair goes in and reviews it. Sometimes there's questions. They may not sign it. The governor may not sign it. You've got to get the foundation chair involved early and make sure that what you're doing is going to work. Number one. Number two, does the district designated fund have the money that you're asking for? Because as you can see, we've got all these grants in draft format right now. There's a money allocation to each of those grants. We keep track of what is in draft format as well as to what has been submitted. Submitted is the grants that we have authorized. They've been submitted. They're awaiting approval by the Rotary Foundation. That's where it's at. And there's probably been lots of back and forth with questions on these various grants. Okay, you can see that the Zimbabwe school, you saw the cones on here earlier, that was submitted in 2019. In December of 2019, they do global calendar alignment on this, but it was submitted in December. That was a pilot project, so it's got a lot of questions. The Haiti Clean Water is the first grant. We're a partner in it. We're not the lead in it. It's the first grant to what will probably ultimately be a $1 billion project. So as you might imagine, the foundation is looking at lots of aspects to that as to how it's going to happen. You'll notice it was created a year before it was submitted. Not important, doesn't matter. Now approved, that's all the grants we've got going on right now. And as you can see, there's quite a few, right? Report due, my little red flag goes red here when it's a few months or a month out, and it lets me know that I got to send a note to that host club, or I'm sorry, to that club here in our district that says, hey, you got a report coming due, are you on it? Because these have got to be timely, okay? And then past applications, look at this. I mean, you guys don't think we do any global grants? Look at this. We do all kinds of grants, and that's not even all of them. It shows me most recent generally, but it varies. I can look something up that's old, but we have records that go back quite a ways. So that's the kind of thing that happens here and that goes on. Now you can see these are all in draft format. It doesn't matter. It hurts nobody. You can't screw it up until you hit authorizations required. And even then, if I go in and I go, wow, you really missed up on this, you might want to reevaluate this, we can get it unlocked and put back into draft. So again, you just can't, don't be afraid of this, please. You can't screw it up. Questions, Rich? Quit your yawning, quit your drinking, quit your yawning.
Okay, let's see here. Yes, we need a contingency line item for exchange rate fluid. So the question before was that how volatile, the state comment was how volatile exchange rates can be in third world countries. And then somebody made a comment, needed a contingency line item for exchange rate fluctuations and stuff.
Yep, you can put in a contingency line. I mean, that's acceptable.
All right, that was it.
John, what do you got? Anything on your observations?
Well, yeah, I just, as far as the currency exchange, most of the developing countries, they are devaluing against the dollar. So that probably our dollar amount contributing it is going to cover the cost. And some of those costs may be in dollars to begin with. So I'm not, you need to put in a number because there are other areas of the world where it's much more stable. But I'm sure that the foundation understands that in Guatemala or Nicaragua or elsewhere in the developing world, that their currencies may be devaluing against the dollar, 15, 20% a year easily.
And the thing you've got to remember, obviously, when you're doing a project in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Africa, South America, whatever the case may be, you're buying the supplies most generally local, or
Right.
at least in country. So you're buying them in the local currency. And that's where, oh, Tom's still on here. I didn't know, Tom, you just popped into my frame. Tom, you want to share a few words about the Zimbabwe school? Unmute yourself. Let me see if I can unmute you. All right, I just unmuted you.
Yeah, if I was going to give one piece of advice, it would be, you know, and it applies to currency, but also special grants like the school project, which was the only Rotary grant that lets you build buildings, which is kind of interesting. But we need a lot of things. We needed electricity, we needed water, we needed classroom buildings, we needed teacher training, and one of the key wrinkles in that is that we can only access this school about 6 or 8 months out of the year because they have a rainy season where you just can't get to it. It turns out to be a very complex grant, and I really rely on the people at RI who deal, you know, they've dealt with in Zimbabwe before. They know what the currency situation is in their particular country of influence, and they can make a lot of these questions a lot easier because they do it all the time. You know, every one of these grants is new for us, but there's people over there that have done at RI, at the foundation, that have done so many of these grants, and so many, you know, if they don't know the answer, they can get it.
I'll just add to that they don't answer quick sometimes. You know, like Rosemary, you were talking about, your club that you're dealing with has 10 projects. That district probably has 80 clubs. All of them have projects going on. It is the same country coordinator for about 3 countries in Central America, which gives you an idea, in this case, her caseload that she's addressing on all these grants at various stages, whether they're pre-grant, you know, in the draft stage, they're in the authorization, they're underway, they're looking for reports, whatever the case may be. She is involved in all of those grants. So it doesn't happen overnight. Go to district leadership first to get an answer. In Tom's case, he wrote a project that was on a pilot program, which meant we didn't know what he was doing. Let me rephrase that. We knew what he was doing in terms of the fact that he was doing a grant, but he's the expert when it comes to a school pilot. And that pilot has been suspended currently, and we'll see if it comes alive again after we have some of the projects that have been submitted, like Tom's and a couple others, get completed. That's when we'll make the decision. The Rotary Foundation will make the decision as to whether we'll do more schools that include buildings, electric, et cetera, in this pilot program. But Tom's the expert on that. He knows more about that than anybody probably in Florida, let alone in District 6970. So that's how that expertise grows. Ken Smallwood is unmuted again, which means here it comes.
Yes, sir. I want to go back to the theme that I was talking about earlier, and that is there's probably, you know, we have 63 clubs in 6970. Probably 15 or 20 of those clubs have been active participants in DDF funds and other grant projects and grants. But another 30 or 40 of us clubs have never done anything. And the fact of the matter is that some of the clubs that are doing something could probably use the support of us clubs who have just been donating money. Now, we love donating money, but we'd love to see it be effective and do other things that make some sense for our district. So please, let's let the district have a format where non-participating clubs but donating clubs can help other clubs who have great projects. Thank you.
Where that's been driven, and it was pretty good last year, Ken, I would say we probably had somewhere around 35 or 40 of our clubs involved in district grants. They weren't the lead, they partnered on projects, but where it's been driven most effectively has been from our area governors. our assistant governors, because they'll take like St. Johns County's gotten very good at this. All 5 clubs, St. Johns County will be on a grant. And that's awesome. And they switch who's going to be the lead each year, so that only one club has to do the paperwork, but they're all participating in these grants. And that's an easier way, especially for a small club that doesn't have a lot of resources, both financially and, manpower wise, in order to get these done. But yeah, and these are the other way, these sessions. And sadly, whether it's in person last year, I think we had 240 people for our district assembly, something like that, maybe 250. Today we had near 200 on that bridge. This is where you learn about stuff like that. And we've got to get our clubs that don't come to things like this. It's pretty eye-opening, in my opinion, that you can jump on board and be a part of a project in northern Mexico, and you can throw $100 and be a partner in a global grant in the canyons of Mexico. That's amazing that you could make an impact for your club for $100. Some clubs will do more. Some clubs will be the lead. You're right. Maybe we can add some of that to the district website, projects that are in process, and a contact person. Like Tom actually came to the district assembly, set up a table at the back of the room and advertised his project. I don't know what his success rate was, but I mean, he got the word out. I'm sure that the clubs in the Ocala area know about that. So maybe we could just, a simple solution, put it on the district website, but then of course we've got to drive traffic to the district website in order to have them get a look at it. But yeah, it is. It's a matter of getting the word out, because the more people know, the more they'll jump on board. Don't go it alone, you guys. There's no reason. I mean, there's clubs that are, they'd love to do a project. And if you can do a project for very little money and click a box on being a successful Rotary Club and getting your members involved, maybe the next time you do it, it's much bigger.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
Art, just
Go ahead,
one thing,
Judy.
Art, I think I'll talk to Ed Dalton and see if we can add that to the foundation page of the website, because I think that's a great idea for clubs to start sharing those ideas. Thank you,
Awesome.
Ken.
Tom, you got another comment?
Yes, whether it's joining with another club, and we're glad there's always needs even outside the grant, for instance, in this school, and I'm sure in Guatemala or whatever. Either get your feet wet by joining with another club, or get your feet wet by starting a grant, just putting it on there, getting idea, you can't do any damage, as Art said. Start with a grant, find out the ideas, explore it more, develop it. And, it may take a year or two, but you can end up with a substantially good grant that's going to make the difference to a lot of people in the world. But you got to start. That inertia is big in a lot of people. And I just encourage everybody to start.
I see that Jenny actually posted about Rotary Showcase, which is on rotary.org, which is a place to post your project for the entire Rotary world to see. And I call it a crowdfunding platform. But what it made me think is we could actually probably create a Rotary Showcase kind of a button on our website and put our projects in that. And it may be, and this would be an Ed Dalton question, Jeanette, maybe it could be more than simple line item. It could actually be, here's what we're doing, and give it a greater description and maybe some pictures, whatever the case may be, to make it bigger, better, bolder, right? Ray Klingensmith.
Art, I just wanted to make a comment. The relationship that you can develop with another club in another country that has needs, it can be through exchange students. It can be through a number of ways, but that's so key to making a global grant successful. We very fortunately have this tremendous relationship with a club in Zimbabwe. And I'm sure others do in different ways. You might just not think about it at the time, but I would just encourage people to look at that as an opportunity.
Comes from a million different directions. One of our clubs in Daytona, some of the members are also attend a Catholic church in Daytona. Oh, Bill's on here. I didn't see Bill, but the priest is from Ghana. Bill, go ahead. How'd that relationship? And Bill, you're muted, and I have
Okay.
no idea what you're doing there, as usual.
And Art, as usual, neither do I. So yeah, we were given the gift of having several members of our Rotary Club being member parishioners of the same church, and priest in Ghana opened our eyes to opportunities for starting with supplying a library with furniture and books and computers, and then moving on to providing computers for the schools to where the students now can interact with, it's called Rachel, but it's, these places don't have the internet, but you can still have computers all linked together on a Wi-Fi system. And Aga Khan University does a lot of the development of this work, and Aga Khan's been a great Rotary partner. So these kids now have access to information and learning opportunities and curriculum that they never would have had any other way. And it's relatively inexpensive. And we've been very successful. We've done, I think, three projects there now. And we're looking at developing our fourth one as we speak.
Love me some Bill Griffin.
Hey, how you doing, bud?
All right, let's not get carried away here now. Let's.
Art,
Yep.
there's a comment from Rosemary. Are you aware of Partners for Peace, Rotary's partnership with Peace Corps? Peace Corps has some projects.
I do not have info. I am aware, Rosemary, but I do not have. I am not an expert on that. We have partnerships. You can't imagine how many partnerships we have. We're forging partnerships with Habitat for Humanity, not in the United States, but on a global scale. We're forging partnerships all over the world. Now, don't mistake that things are being set back in the current climate, right? Who knows where this is going? We're going to meet on Zoom for a while. But regardless, there's still a need. We can still make these things happen. Other questions? We got 4 minutes left in order to give you a potty break before the district social, apparently. I would say that the coolest thing, and some of us are already, I see it, Ken, I got one myself. The coolest thing that came out of this and makes the most sense is to do Rotary Showcase on our own district website and focus on our own club's projects before they go to submission, so that you can get partners on that and engage more. One of the weird things about doing this on Zoom, I'm on a weekly call on the Zone. The Zone has a weekly call. It's grown now to where it's like 250 people were on the one on Monday from all over zones 33 and 34, which is Pennsylvania to Florida, the Caribbean, and 3 countries in South America. It started with nothing. We're learning more about each other because of this weirdness, right? It's forcing us to get together, not just in our club, although my club is meeting in this same fashion. In fact, more often than it used to, which is very weird and driving me a little crazy. But that's just what's happening, right? So it's opportunity to share these ideas. We're all getting much more comfortable with this, this media, this technology. You're all on here. I'm doing 4 or 5 of these a day. I have friends that, we're speaking. I have had the gift and the opportunity to speak at a number of clubs all the way in that entire 2-zone region. I'm doing more speaking engagements now than I ever did because I don't cost them anything. I'm free. Who's got a question or something? Anything? Jeanette, you got
Rosemary has another question. Will any time extension be provided because of this weirdness?
Global grants have no time. So that is a rolling calendar. So it doesn't matter. We would like to see some of these get submitted. We have a specific amount of funds in our global account, and it's never a good thing to leave it there. It's your money. We want to make it do good. So we like to see grants go to that submitted position so that that grant is, or that fund is then locked from a Rotary Foundation perspective. That
And I
grant-
want to know how much you paid Jenny Van Hart to say you were worth every cent.
I didn't see that part, and so, but I owe her. I owe her big time, Jenny. I owe you big time. But you know, there's a perfect example. Gainesville has taken great advantage of the grant process. Every club, there is no preset requirement other than being on this webinar to do a grant. That's the only thing. So do one. You know, you don't know. You can say we don't have any money. You don't know if you don't have any money. We could get 10 clubs together and maybe you got every penny you need, or maybe we got enough to go after a match. Dream big, be big, go after it. We can make this happen. There's a bigger need now than ever. And you're going to see, I mean, I'm sure you've all been watching it. We're not going to get into the COVID stuff, but global hunger is going to be worse than it ever was because we're plowing things into the field because we can't get them to distribution. So all the food that ends up at second harvest because the farmers couldn't sell it, it's being buried in their own fields as compost because they can't distribute it. So hunger is going to be a bigger challenge than it was. So there's never been a greater need for us. That's the bottom line. And so just think about these things and engage these. You got John Caulfield, member of the Jacksonville Rotary Club. I'm in Flagler Beach. I'm working with John for a year, but I'm not going anywhere. You got Jeanette's taking over my job. Bill Griffin was a foundation chair. Ken Smallwood was a governor. I'm just looking at my screen who I can see right now. All of these people are resources. Gordon Reynolds is going to be on the share committee this year. Carolyn Mudgett is the district trainer. And I apologize. Rosemary's in the midst of writing a grant. Tom wrote a grant. Sean is on here. She's a past district governor. Don't look at me confused, Sean. You know, we got all of these things going on. So we got lots and lots of resources in this district. And all you got to do is ask, because we can meet with you just like that, just like this. So make it happen. Any other questions, Rich?
We've got, okay, we got a few. How do we jump to the Grand Bahamas Abaco project the former president spoke about during the PE training?
Barry Rassin addressed the project, the global grant they were working on when he was at PETS this year. And I am happy to report that that project is now submitted and fully funded. So you're late, but your district, which means your money, you know, all our members' money, contributed $12,000 to that grant. It's a $180,000 project. It's going to put engines back in the boats of 30 fishing boats, so that they can not only put 30 boats of fishermen back on the water making a living, but can feed the people in the Abaco and Grand Bahama. So that's the kind of thing we're talking about. And that one's already underway. The 8 Florida districts all threw some money in, made that one happen. Thank you for asking.
All right, I've pulled 3 more lucky numbers. You'll find out more tomorrow.
I keep on waiting for Carolyn to say something else after she says that, and she just says, I pulled 3 more. It's like, okay,
Well,
just say Art 1 and get it.
Formality.
I just got to give it all to the DGE and the almost First Lady.
All right.
John, you got anything else?
I think you said it all, Art, really well, Art, and thank you very much. Great presentation.
Jeanette?
No, great job.
Rich?
I love the idea about the Rotary Showcase on
Good.
our website. We'll follow up on that.
Anybody I didn't address or I missed, send me a note. Happy to respond. Thank you so much for doing this. And if you got a minute, I'll see you in the social. It's not this bridge, by the way. So I don't know where you go to get there, but see you in the social. Oh, that's a good
Back to the
question. Jeanette,
agenda.
where do they go?
Go back to the agenda. There's a link on there.
There's a link to the social.